they fear God, they fear people unlike them, and they fear the woman, and they hate themselves. So therefore, when you went into slavery, you started hating yourself, and when you came on the level of the beast, and then with black people, when they first got in the church, they went to the doggone white people church and used to sit up in the balcony and used to sing white people songs. And they hear this wretch like me. And some of the damn hymn books and shit come from white people. And yes, I'm saying, like I said before, okay, I'm cursing, right? Well, listen, ain't no such thing as being sacrilegious about cursing for the simple doggone fact. This English language was not even on the planet when the actual spiritual scriptures came down, so how can a doggone English curse word be an abomination to God? Check? You see what I'm saying? So that they don't have nothing. It's like I said before, we just use those words for emphasis now because we have mastered that particular part of the English language real good. You know? And it don't sound good now unless we drive it home that way. So okay. All right. So now that's what the curse of Ham is you falling into spookism. And now they're saying this is the information age of spiritual attainment. Now, I'm not talking about like the white man that don't believe in God. He's talking about scientific and a Big Bang theory. No, we ain't talking about that. That's crazy stuff, too. That's the white man trying to justify his existence. We're talking about believing in the same God, but we're talking about believing on a higher order of spirituality, just like the order when Jesus came, he was of that order of Melchizedek. He understood a great deal, just as the people in Hemmitt. So we're talking about on another level than some of the stuff that the white boy talking about, because the fundamentalist going to bring that to you, too. Oh, you believe everything inside. Because, see, everything is based on what people hear. Nobody does any studying for themselves. Now, they said in actuality, what has been happening is because you have a certain spiritual body, when you pray, it's not like you're getting blessings from Jesus. They're saying you're getting blessings based on your karma that you got to play out down here and your own thought process, your own thought ability. So some of you people, when you go into fundamentalism, yes, you pray to God. And what happens is you believe so much and you use that spiritual part of yourself until it automatically brings it to you anyway. That's the positive thinking and the whole thing, your thoughts of things. And you saying it's Jesus. You understand? No, that's the Christ energy in you that Jesus was saying, be ye perfect as I am. You see what I'm saying? And he said, as a man and woman thinketh, so is he or she. So when you read the Bible, you got to start reading the Bible like an esoteric book that it is. You see, you have several things in ancient world. You got one where the person comes by, the baby comes by, and he hears stories to try to understand what the world is like. You understand what I'm saying? Then the priest come by, and he understands that those stories is something bigger. You understand? She was living in Philly at the particular time when I met her. I met her on the Million Woman March back in '97. As a matter of fact, back in '97, I met at the Million Woman March. I had a lecture during the same time. So after the march, they came to the lecture. And so and that was in '97. And by '93, 2003, she had moved back to this particular area, and she came to the Carleen lecture in 2003. And I first met Brother TJ at the Carleen lecture. And the brother wanted to take me to DC that day and do some things. But he said, I want to set up a lecture with you. And I knew it had to be spiritual because this lecture came about, I think, in January of 2004. And we did the lecture and walked outside of the building and it snowed. And it was almost like some forces put things together amongst insurmountable odds. And so it was snowing the next day, and Linda called me at his house, and we started talking. And from there led to us continuing the conversation until she moved down on March 15th of that year. So this brother is responsible for, putting that scenario together that I could have my queen that I have now, which is very interesting. And I'll tell you some more things on ancestral things, whereas we are destined to meet certain people and hook up with certain people based on certain points in time. And I'll go into that because it has a whole lot of metaphysical meaning to it. I got a few things. I got a few things, very important things. We have certain spiritual documents come about. I have this one, which is a spiritual document. It's called A Ritual of the Third Eye. So what we're into now, we're not necessarily into reporting about these mysteries as if we are into the practicing stage or the application stage of these mysteries. So our ancient people left certain things behind that we would retrieve at a later date. And they used the Europeans, especially a lot of this stuff was brought up into Europe by the Moors, to be preserved so that we could get it at a later date. And I talk about this all the time in my lectures, the reason why it was imperative that the Moors go up into Europe for 700 years, not only to educate them, but to bring certain materials from the East and bring them into the West so that we could have this after we wake up out of our slumber. And it was going to be a long time because our slumber, we are just waking up the last 20-something years. Every now and then we will have a resurgence where our eyes will wake up, and we have them in the 30s, we had them in the 60s, we had them in the early 70s, and then as you know, COINTELPRO moved in the 70s and shut certain things down. Then we had a resurgence in the late 80s and the early 90s. And then things moved to shut things down. We're going to tell you, they got a little more advanced about this, and as a matter of fact, I've been talking about this in a lecture, but Brother TJ had sent down a certain document to further the research that it was much more severe on what they did in the early 90s to shut down certain people or make certain people go to sleep. And what I mean by that here is they monitor when we're waking up. You notice in the early 90s, everybody was walking around with a little leather Africa on, even unconscious people. So first it starts with a style, and then you also had your conscious rap at that particular time. So basically they upped the ante on the fluoride, which is what we're going to deal with. The fluoride, which is the number one devastating thing to the pineal gland, as well as low radio frequency waves, as well as, if you notice your TV set, the only way to really stop it, you got to put a heavy blanket over it. So let's say if you cut your TV set off at night, that's not enough because that means if it's still plugged into the wall, it's on standby. So you get a breaker and you cut off the breaker, you know, where you put all those plugs in and you mash the breaker. It don't matter if you cut the TV, you can unplug it from the wall, cut it off at a breaker. There's still a matter because it has a battery on the inside that's still on. Just like your cell phone. Your cell phone is unplugged from the wall as you travel around, but it's the battery on the inside that keeps the cell phone going. So these TVs have a battery on the inside to keep going even when you unplug them from the wall. So that's why you need to get you some type of black velvet and drape, black or dark blue velvet and drape over the actual TV. Not only does it emits all types of low radio frequency waves, but it also is a camera on the inside. So everybody is monitored. You see what I'm saying? But we can talk all day on those particular things, but we're also into the application. And here's a document that I'm going to be giving today. It's a 2-page document. I'm selling for $5. I go and I do the research, go in and dig detail and get to certain things. So there's certain things that came out of Moorish Spain, since we're talking about the Moors also, that they were holding on to for years. The Europeans, and this is coming from the Wiccan cult, which you must familiarize yourself with. Now I'll tell you why. The whole witchcraft thing, because that's nothing but the priestess of Isis, or Aset. You see what I'm saying? And so white folks are at least maybe 100 years ahead of us in our own sciences. All because you all spooked out and everything that is yours somehow became evil. You know what I'm saying? Somehow became evil. This is a third eye ritual. It's a ritual on how to evoke psychic power and clairvoyance in the whole 9 yards. But this is one that works. So what it is I'll go in and I'll do the research and retrieve certain things. Well, I had to find this in the Wiccan, Wiccan information, which the Wiccan information had 2 aspects of receiving their particular information. The first resurgence, the first rise of the Wiccans was the ancient Egyptians who traveled up in that land and built Stonehenge, or the Hemmites, and set up the Celtic Druids. Now this was curious to me because I found a book called The Book of Isis and Osiris by the Celtic Druids back in the 1990s. And I'm, you see, what is this? And then it was interesting. So that's the first aspect as far as this Wiccan thing. The second aspect is that they benefited from the secret societies who actually preserved all of those particular magical texts on the Moors that was there for 700 years. You see what I'm saying? So they are into preserving all of the ancient primordial texts. So this is one that filtered down, probably came out of Hemmitt, went into Europe by the Moors, and this is a third eye ritual. That's 2 pages, because the second page is how to raise the Kundalini, 10 ways how to raise the Kundalini energy. We'll be dealing with all that today, but I wanted to put that out there also. Let me see if I got this picture. We had a great master to pass in March. Some of you know him as Brother C. Freemanel. Anybody heard of Brother C. Freemanel?
Right.
Great master to pass. See if I got his picture. To pass. This is one that Brother Azazel. This is a picture of it. It's just it's the best we had at the time. But Brother C. Freemanel made the transition, so we paying homage to him, And so what we do is we invoke. But this is ironic. I'm kind of glad to do this. I was glad to make this opportunity because I saw the brothers, the Crips and the Bloods and the gangs out in L.A. On the videos when they would pour one for the brothers ain't here. They would take a 40 ounce and pour for the brothers ain't here. So, you know, I never had the opportunity. I was a little jealous. I said, man, I wish I could do that. But I never really had the opportunity in a particular setting and stuff, you see what I'm saying, until now, because this brother used to drink Old English. Used to drink Old English. And don't laugh, because this is ironic. This is Old English. That's the tiger. Same tiger that jumped through the fence on Christmas Day, remember in the San Francisco Zoo?
Yeah.
Well, that's called the jumping. This tiger wasn't let out. This tiger actually walked through a wall and ended up on the other side. Real significant because these dimensions are bumping into each other, you see. So if you have all the elemental forces, which you got with nature and different things happening, the animals correspond with those elemental forces, so that thing happened. When we had a memorial for him down in Atlanta, I said, man, I forgot to get the Old English 40 ounce. And I was telling him, and so the brother, what's the brother name from, they talked about the 800,
Tap.
Brother Tap, that lives upstate New York, would say, well, that was interesting, he would drink that, because it said that the Moors invaded Europe in the late 1700s, but they actually took power in the 800s. So the Old English represents the Moor. And when I was turning around to go back to my seat after I did my testimonial, he said, hey man, that was not one of the reasons I drank it. He said, I drank it because I wore burgundy fez and the sign was burgundy, it's just like the fez. So what does this mean? This means that these people do research, and not only do they do research, they understand certain things that we wearing this fez. This is this whole Moorish thing that's going down. And don't think that they're not up on it. Because I got documents from the prison. I had a homeboy that got a job in the prison as a prison guard, and he brought back papers they had to learn, and they had every symbol and mythology and everything for every person that was in the prison, from the Nation of Islam, the Moorish Science, the Hebrew Israelites, you see, even Christian sects. You see, so they had it all, they have to know everything. So don't think that when this thing is designed, it wasn't designed to put that fez on there. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm wearing a t-shirt, so we want to, this is so when I went to the store yesterday, I went to go get some Old English, they didn't have none. So I got a Red Bull. This is called a Red Bull, Schlitz Red Bull. So I went for a libation. Usually we pour it on the floor. We'll mop it up later. You pour it on the floor. I don't want to pour it on the rug. We can always mop that up. And that's for Brother C. Freemanel. I'll take a little sip too. We get into the groove of things. But this is the Red Bull. But anyway, that's how we do things. So somebody said, what does a master do in drinking malt liquor? You're going to find out about the masters. The masters never come in the people that you see all flowing in the vestibule of divineness. The master you're going to always take for granted. You're going to always look at the master and treat him with a heavy hand. Just like Yoda. You know, Yoda in the Yoda in Star Wars. You know, he used to live in a shithole and drinks and eat stew. And little, you know, in a little raggedy place. And Luke Skywalker, who was supposed to be his initiate, took him for granted and treated him with a heavy hand at first. So the master is never going to come in the people, especially in this day and age. You see what I'm saying? Especially in this day and age. The master is always going to be someone that you take for granted. And somewhat that is the disguise where we are right now, because believe it or not, the people who run this planet, they never think, they don't even, can't even realize, that they would never even realize in a million years that we are sitting up here learning this advanced knowledge. You see what I'm saying? They think that, you know, we are out here complaining. And what they think that what we still in knowledge is the same stuff that we was dealing with back in the day, talking junk about the white man. You see what I'm saying? He would never think that we are on the verge of our own magic, which is our own technology. You see what I'm saying? Now I want to show you, I usually don't wear nothing but dress shirts and dress clothes, and I do that for a reason. About 22, 23 years ago, Spirit came up and said, now you know you're going to have to wear, people got certain personalities. They said, look, you know, I think I was 24 years old. They said, you're going to have to get up out of them sneakers and all that old stuff that they said, because you're going to look like a mass murderer walking around in sneakers and t-shirts and all the other stuff. So, and I said, man, that's kind of interesting. And then years later, when I gained a little weight, I realized, hey, it was right. I look like some Wayne Williams or somebody walking around here. And although he didn't do anything, but I realized what he was talking about. And so Brother Azazel did these Zarabanda t-shirts, which is the Congo rights coming out of the Congo, Africa, and later on supplanted in Cuba, South America, and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico being some of the strongest of what's called Palo Manombe. So he did the Zarabanda shirts, and he said, I got one for you. I'm like, that's a t-shirt. He said, no, it's a 6X, brother. He said, it's a 6X. It's going to do you right. And I said, okay now, this is the first time a t-shirt fit me. But it was right. So the other day I was sitting on the bed, and I was like, wait a minute, I need to wear this. And sure enough, he has on his Queen Majay has on hers. So we pushing these powerful shirts of the Palo, and I think they got some over there that you need to get a hold to. And basically, he taking these particular bebes and actually making this. This is the type of stuff we need to be into, something that's very powerful, something that illuminates. This is the god Zarabanda, which is the god of tell the little boy to close the little door right there. Oh yeah. The Zarabanda is the opening of the gateway. This whole sign symbolizes a dimension of a whole nother universe. And we'll be getting into that particular type of science as we go on. So right now what we want to do is we're going to give a big shout out to Brother C. Freemanel. Ashe. Then we're going to do libations right after the question and answer. We're going to do a little different things. So, what's that? Oh yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know, you got to realize, celebration and ritual changes things. You see, changes things. Why do you think you still a lot of people stuck up in that church? Because that church got some powerful rituals. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I'm gonna be honest with you. Actually, if Jesus is Horus, I talked about this before, and it doesn't matter what name you call him. If Jesus came from Horus, and the people worshiping Jesus, wouldn't they be worshiping Horus or Heru? It'd be the same thing. See, and you look at the spirit world, you know, they don't get into the political aspect about it. So in so many words, the church is actually right on time. This comes from that's the scarab, which represents the heart chakra. It's called the heart scarab. We'll be talking about that today, but that's one of the ways that, you know.
I saw it last night.
We're ready.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it was on the Cartoon Network, and Justice League had a shit identical to that. It's supposed to come out of space.
Okay.
That's why I became concerned.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting because I had a dream about this about 20 years ago. Back, as a matter of fact, it was 1998. I had a dream of a spaceship called the Hermetic Lady Kepra, which is the Kepra is the one with the beetle with the wings. And I had a dream about a spaceship, and this was back in 1988, 20 years ago, called a Hermetic Lady Kepra. It's very interesting. So what we want to do is this sister is Brother Azazil's queen, Sister Majay. She comes with a whole lot of power, whole universe of her own. And so we're glad to have her in the house. Some of you have seen her on the videos, on the DVDs, and I'm glad to have her in the house. And she's going to come up and do a powerful poem for us. And remember, everything we do is in alignment with ceremony, and it is alignment with rituals, which actually changes not only the course of our surroundings, but it actually changes time itself. Each one of these events are major events in time that was prophesied to happen.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't want you to treat people hell, treat people up.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Yeah. You know, I know there's so much hate going on in this world today, so I just wrote a little piece. What is that? It's called Hate. If hate had a form, what would it be? Would it smile and grin, or grit its jagged teeth? If hate had a form, what would it be? Would it flick its tongue and spew its lies with bony claws and demon eyes? If hate had a form, what would it be? Would it be ugly and contorted, its figures distorted, or would it have a face without a clue? In other words, would that mother look just like you? If hate had a form, who would it be? Much thanks.
All right.
Yes, I guess the individual has to decide what would that be. What we're going to do right now, because a lot of people, especially people who have heard me before, and the ones who haven't, we got a good little while to you to get to familiarize yourself with my particular information. But what we want to do right now is we want to change the format up a little bit because change is supreme. As Dr. Richard King tells you, that melanin is chaos, because chaos is nothing but dark matter, the black holes in space. And melanin is nothing but the cosmic substance, not only of everything that's in the universe, but those things that's outside of this particular solar system before this particular solar system was formed. All that is in us, and that is chaos. And they got so many things now, chaos mathematics, chaos theory, and chaos magic, different things that the government has been dealing with about the last 30 years. So dealing with that change, that melanin is chaos, every now and then, no matter how rigid the rules are, every now and then something has to change. And we exemplify that in our creative process. We created the blues, we leave it alone. White folks take it. We created jazz, we leave it alone. White folks take it. You know, we create everything and then we get out of it. And some people say, why don't we stick with our stuff? But that is not what we do. If you're a creative being, you create. And something that's already been created, you see what I'm saying, is on the process of dying. So that's the laws of chaos and the laws of melanin. Change is supreme. Now chaos before it was called chaos in the Hebrew aspect, or the Kabbalistic, which makes it the Kabbalistic aspect, which makes it Egyptian. Because these Hebrews are nothing but extension of the Baltimore Kamites compared to the DC Kamites, just another branch of Negroes. You see what I'm saying? Because we created everything. You know what I'm saying? So in this particular aspect, that's why we can't throw out anything. We can't throw out nothing, not even the Bible. You know, in Isaiah 45, they say, I will give you the treasures of darkness. And the book of Psalms, we know now you can't throw it out, because the book of Psalms is nothing but the love hymns from Akhenaten to Nefertiti. You see? As a matter of fact,
while this is on my mind, they dug up the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1948. That would be 60 years, I think, now, this year. And they basically gave them mostly, when they've been translating them for the last 50, 60 years. And they basically gave them materials that they had already had in the Torah, the Tanakh, the Kabbalistic aspect, and later on into early Christianity, which is Gnosticism and different things. So they really didn't get a lot profound stuff. Now they got a lot more out of the Nag Hammadi library that they dug up in 1945 in Egypt, which is the Gnostic stuff, which is basically what the Old Testament was copied from and made out of. But anyway, but they did have this one thing. They had the copper Dead Sea Scrolls. And they took them years, they split them open, and they were still getting some of the same old text over and over. But they found out that they had Greek letters deposited among the Hebrew letters. And they translated the Greek letters, and it ended up saying Akhenaten, right in the Dead Sea Scrolls. You see. So we know that these things are nothing but borrowed text from earlier things, so we're still just talking about stuff that the family brought down through the ages. But one of the Hebrew words, before it was called chaos, it was called ayin, or ain. Then the word ain represents, in the Kabbalistic tradition, the number 61, which I was born in 1961, as well as Barack Obama. And chaos means change is supreme. And Barack Obama is saying what? Change. Which means chaos. Which means his name, 61, Ain. Which I was born in 61. We both born the same year. We both left-handed. You see. Both left-handed. He's a lefty, I'm a lefty. You see what I'm saying? And we'll go into that. Some other things, why the Pope had to come to meet with Barack Obama secretly. There's a reason for that. You see what I'm saying? To bear witness to a bloodline. And we're going to go into that also. You see, this Pope Benedict. You see, so, and why did he come 1 year after Queen Elizabeth came over? Because remember, she was at the Kentucky Derby, which is the date. She came the week before, you see what I'm saying? And so bearing witness to the new kingdom. We're going to go into all of that too. There's a real change going on. But you got to understand what's going on in the spirit world. So right now what we want to do, we're going to change it up. We want to go into a little question and answer. You get the juice rolling. You see what I'm saying? Because your questions are actually answers. And a lot of time when I come, I speak so long until a lot of people, they get up, they leave before they can get the question off. All the ones that stay, they go, wow, it's been 6 hours. Hey, I forgot what I was going to ask you. So let's go into, anybody got a question right now? Some things are on their mind. Anything other than Barack Obama and the Pope, because we're going to get into a whole science on that. You see what I'm saying? But then again, we'll see what the deal is, because something might have to come up because it needs to. Give me some questions. Mm-hmm.
Yes, brother. How do you raise the vibration of yourself? Through meditation? What do you do?
There's several ways to do it. As a matter of fact, I have a document here that's accompanying the third eye ritual. Okay, we have the third eye ritual that was left behind by the Moors that we had to go to the Wiccan cult to find. This is interesting because they celebrate today, yesterday, I think it started Thursday on the 1st of May, something called the Beltane. And the Beltane is basically celebrating the goddess, and celebrating the phallus symbol. What's the name of that pole they wrote? The maypole. That's also the phallus symbol. And so what it is a gateway that opens. It opens. Very spiritual time, the whole month. But it started on Thursday on the 1st. And it's called the Beltane Festival of basically the spring equinox, but also this gateway of the whole May, which is the mother, May, Ma, mother, Mama, the double Ma, mother. You see what I'm saying? And that's why you have Mother's Day. It's probably one of the most important times of the year. You see what I'm saying? Also, to celebrate the yoni. We're going to get into that. But I know what the yoni is. The yoni is the vagina, which is probably the most powerful energy on the planet. We'll get into all of that. But this particular time right now is very powerful, and it's called the Beltane Festival. Go on the internet and look up into this type of stuff. But so we got these things out of, we had to get that third eye ritual from the Wiccan cult, which, to show you where we are, we still worried about identity. We Moors, we Egyptian, we Hebrews, and we don't realize we are all of that. And we was never just one thing. But we're so many thousands and thousands of years old till we could have been one thing at one time and another thing at another time. It's just the same thing. But when you are a primal person, it's kind of futile to argue and try to put yourself in one box. So my thing here is, somebody say, you Islam? I'm like, yeah. You Christian? I say, yeah. I say, whatever it is, you Chinese? I say, yeah. Why? Because we invented all of it. It's all ours. Like the Shang Dynasty. Shang Dynasty is started by Shango from Nigeria, which Barack Obama means, or Barack means lightning, which is Shango. And Obama means lion, which is Leo, which he's a Leo. You know what I'm saying? And even though he might not even be conscious of this stuff, it really has nothing to do with him, what we even talking about. The presidency, you crazy to look for anything that's going to change your life based on the doggone government. That's not the point. We talk about the image. We'll get into that science. So we don't want to give you the wrong impression that this election is politically and economically going to change your life. Psychologically, it will. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not even talking about psychologically as far as the ego, but I'm talking about your spirit. That's a whole other thing. We'll get into that. We talking about some melanin lining up. But on this document of the third eye ritual, on the back of this is something called the zone of the fire snake. And it gives you 10 different ways to line up the pineal, the kundalini energy within inside yourself. And all you got to do is read this particular document. And it gives you 10 ways to line up the kundalini. Give you an example. Total concentration. Number one, total concentration of the mind and its source, brought into intense study and research by the state of mental quintessence. One-pointed concentration and mental energy and magical symbol and sigil. So they're talking about different things that you can do. Drugs and alcohol. Well, you can, you scratch your drug, but every now and then you can take a little sip. Because that's called a fire water, and that's what the ancient Egyptians used to do. And if you do some drugs, you do some natural stuff. Get you some selenium. It was a combination I took back in '93. Real powerful. Selenium, L-lysine, and phenylalanine. Take them three together. And I lost the combination, and what it was I had the L-lysine and I had the selenium, but I forgot about the phenylalanine. Those three things went to another level. So if you're going to do the drugs, they're talking about natural things that you can take, like vitamins. You see what I'm saying? Vitamins. I also have some other things that I'm going to go into today. A juice that comes out of ancient Kemet. A juice,
Monatomic gold.
Monatomic gold is one also. Yeah, that's one that Dr. Delbert Blair sells, and you'll be hearing from him, and he'll give you the information when he comes through. Also. So those are one, but right now, this is one that you can raise the kundalini with. As well as a Nephilim ritual that I'm selling also. There's a ritual, it's a book out of ancient Egypt, and if you can get what you want if you study it and put up this particular entity. But we also have the third eye ritual also. These things that work. So give me some other questions right quick. Yeah.
They came out with the book, The Source.
Yeah.
How does it relate to our ancient science?
The secret source?
The original source, and what's a good book now? Straight to Kabbalion, what the secret now is talking about.
Yeah. The original source, which one of them?
No, not the source. The secret.
The secret source. Yeah, there's a book out called The Secret Source. And the secret source is basically, they took the, you all heard of The Secret. You know, Oprah had The Secret on and all that. And basically what they did is they took one of the Hermetic laws, one of the Hermetic laws, and which is the laws of attraction. And they made The Secret out of them, but they didn't tell you that they got those sources from some stuff called the Kabbalion, which is the Hermetic laws, which comes out of ancient Egypt, or ancient Kemet. And so it's called the Kabbalion. But anyway, there's a book out called The Secret Source. You know, I don't have the author, but you just need the name. I might have the book up here. I might have the actual book up here. But it's called The Secret Source, which is the new one, which includes the Kabbalion. And it's interesting because the brother C. Freeman L., let me put his picture up and get this Molica picture from up off this thing right quick. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't want y'all to get a hankering. You got to be a master to master this stuff. Don't try this at home. You see what I'm saying? You see, although the last month. So, he taught from a book called the Kabbalion by the three initiates. But this book that came out the day he died, the book came out called The Secret Source, which also has the Kabbalion included in it. And those are some of the Hermetic texts of the laws. There's different laws, the laws of mental laws, vibration, several laws. It's 7 Hermetic laws. They only took the one to give you the secret from. But so you want to access the other Hermetic laws. And I recommend this particular book because it gives you much more. Not only does it have the Kabbalion in it, but it also gives you a history of different aspects of it. And more on the original author, Hermes. On the original author, Hermes. Which we call the Egyptian Tahuti or Thoth. That's where our word thought comes from. But so you want to get that book. It's called The Secret Source. They sell it at Barnes and Nobles. And it says the laws of attraction is but one of the 7 Hermetic laws. Here's the other 6. So that's the one I'm promoting. Was that the question, or you had any other thing to go with it? So basically that Kabbalion, and the reason why we say that is because he made the transition in March, and the day that he died, the book that he taught on for years came out in a new format, and it proved that basically they took the secret, which everybody's going crazy off of one law, and they're making all this money on the secret, the laws of attraction, and there's 7 other laws, or 6 others, 7 in all. And they use the laws of attraction because the simple fact, that's the greed one. So you say attract money, you know you're going to get people to do something. So, but there's other ones, and if you access the other 7, you see what I'm saying? You would have a much more holistic aspect, a holistic life. So that's the one you want to get. It's called The Secret Source. Is the book you want to get. And it came out in the day he died in March, and the day he died. Another book he was working on a book called on a book dealing with the Bible being a zodiac book. And I said, why you been working on that since I knew you? He said, well, it's going to be about 700-800 pages. And I was like, why? He said, that way no person can bootleg it. Black people need bootleg your stuff. So I got a big book. I said, you must don't know Azariah. Azariah, man, he got some books up there that's, shoot. He got that Bull Gnostic workbook is about 600 pages, and he sure got it on his table. Spiral bound and stuff. So, but anyway, the day he died, this book came out called The Gospel of the Zodiac. And it shows you the Mark, Luke, all these particular ones, enough of them a different zodiac thing. So this book is broken. And I said, it's ironic that the book that you was writing, somebody wrote the book for you and put it out in both of these books. The Secret and The Gospel of the Zodiac came out the day he died. Or the day he made the transition. You see what I'm saying? So get that book, The Gospel of the Zodiac and The Secret Source. We got other books we'll tell you also to get.
I got a question, man. What's the real deal, man, behind the Jeremiah Wright thing, man?
Okay, well, I was going to deal with that, but I'll deal with that now. Somebody got to Jeremiah Wright between the time they did those snippets. Now, let me tell you what I'm talking about. That's the Judas factor. Because he threw a monkey wrench in right in the middle of something. See, the problem here is we get so emotional. What he was saying was right, but it wasn't necessarily right for the rest of the country to hear.
Right.
You see, you don't discuss family business out. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
Because that's not their experience.
Right.
You telling white folks that America's evil and this is the greatest country that has happened to them. Hell, if I was a white person, I'd say the same thing too. My God, we got it made. Or had it made. But you know, they got tent cities now, they're not showing.
Yeah. I call the house the vortex, you know.
The vortex.
Yeah.
I started lecturing for him in when? I know it was 98.
Yeah, 98.
September or October or something. It was
Something like
fall,
that. It was-
fall of 1998. We did about what now? How many lectures?
It was, I mean, since then?
Since then? Man.
Shit, I don't know.
About 8?
I think it's been about 3 a year at least.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 3 a year.
And every time you come in, it's a minimum 2 days, sometimes
Yeah,
3.
minimum
you
2
know.
days. And yeah, so we've been doing this. Like I've always said, I first started here in 94. We did two for Elaine, for Sister Elaine, you know. Down at the Peach, down at the Renaissance Hotel, or whatever, at that time. Did 2 for her, and then didn't get back this way until 98, you know, until 1998. But it's been a smoker. Every time it comes, it's always off the wall, powerful. The energy is always hitting. So we're going to do it again. Today we're going to do a specialized lecture. We got 2 parts. We got to do one on the rising of Ishtar, which is divine feminine energy. Divine feminine energy, and is actually a result of what came out of the Iraqi war. And so, for every cause, there's an effect. And so there's something that did come out of that on the spiritual side. We're going to get into all that tomorrow on that particular aspect. But what I want to do here is I've been doing research in melanin for the last 11, 12 years. And so as a result, I kind of have a lot of the stuff spread out over 200 lectures. So what I decided to do was to make a compilation of this thing and compile it into one lecture, as well as the new research into that, because I always going to go and research into the melanin thing, as well as also I did one a couple of years ago. I did one about 3 years ago in 2001. Unfortunately, it was good. It was about a good 6 hours, but no, it was a good 4-hour lecture. But melanin is so vast until it needs a lot more time than that. So what I want to do is to do a groundbreaking critical lecture on melanin, and a very important lecture. And if the Spirit let us, we're going to try to jam all this in to one lecture, because it's just that much stuff. If you know that lecture is the fabric of the universe and the triple blackness of space, as well as above, so below, we carry it, then you know that basically melanin, there's nothing that you can deal with that doesn't have some form of melanin. Most of the research that the white boys is doing for the last 10 years has all been melanin based. Most of the drugs, most of everything is centered around melanin. So what we're going to do today is to try to go into an elaborate array of breaking this down, the melanin, the pineal gland, and all the other stuff, and tying it together. We're going to go from things as common as the Bible, and you know, as remote as scientific aspects of new scientific information. So we're going to try to do all of that today. Plus, like I said, I have bibliography. I always bring the ammunition, so we got enough of that type of stuff. Enough of that type of information also. To break this down. So, how many people Did I ever do the 777 here where I gave the numbers and you would add them up and find out what God and goddess you were? Did I ever do that here before?
I think you did.
I think, yeah, well, I'll go back into some of that tomorrow just to see just how this stuff line up, because all this stuff is ongoing research. Ongoing research. But, and also we'll be giving you out information on what is good for melanin. You know, what kind of foods, what kind of conditions you need to be in, different things like that. We'll be dealing with all of that type of aspect. I don't know whether I should break the ground now for a question and answer. A question and answer now to get the ball rolling, or do it later, because we have a lot of material here. The Spirit's been giving it to me for the last 2 days. So basically what it is I say, well, you know, I said, well, when it comes, it'll come. So, and it just started coming. So as a result, I've been working all yesterday and today just writing down stuff. It's just coming out of the head. And it's just basically remembering things over the last 12 years as well as the new stuff. And then not only that, I have to remember what bibliography goes with it, so I can give you also stuff that you can study or document this type of information. So right now I'm going to open up with a question and answer on melanin, if anybody has any questions right now. And then we can go into the actual lecture. As we go on. I'll start off with this passage here. This is the book Gerald Massey's Lectures. You've heard me talk about this before. This Gerald Massey's Lectures he has 6 volumes. 6 volumes out. They cost like they're $50 each paperback and probably $90 hardback. But you can get all 6. You can get a synopsis of the 6 volumes in this one book, Gerald Massey's Lectures. This is an excellent book. This is an excellent book. Massey is one of the greatest Egyptologists of all time that was shunned by his white counterparts because of the simple fact he told the truth.
Okay.
Because he told the truth. There's a chapter in this particular book called, the section is called The Devil of Darkness, The Evil in Light of Evolution, page 141, which is interesting because he's trying to give you a synopsis of what this whole devil thing is that people are scared of, and I've been talking about this for years. And to this day I say, well, I'm from the dark side, and people go, ooh, still scared of this thing. And most conscious people are still weary about, wow, man, I just don't know about all of that. But he also did a synopsis. There's a bigger one. He has one in this book where he showed the Egyptian aspect of the Christ, of Horus, and he shows the Jesus parallel. So it'll show you all of this stuff, and if you get the book of the day, his Light of the World, he shows that particular parallel. Literally hundreds of parallels of the thing between Jesus and Horus and Heru. Since then, there's a cassette that came out, and we pretty much have an access to just about all the conscious videos in the country. We have some access from different people. We got people in Atlanta, we got people in New York, and throughout the whole United States, we can pretty much put our hands on any kind of tape, which is good, because that's where it's supposed to come down to a network to free up the stuff from people hardening. There's a tape called The Naked Truth, and it deals with religion. And in that particular tape, The Naked Truth, dealing with some white boys that put this thing together in 1990, they said there's literally hundreds of parallels between Jesus and Horus, and literally hundreds of parallels between Jesus and Krishna. And these both entities predate the Jesus character 10,000 years with Horus and 5,000 years with Krishna. And then you have the whole Shiva aspect in which Krishna came from. You see, Hercules is the form of that whole Jesus concept. The whole Jesus concept, and Disney put out Hercules a couple of years ago. All that's nothing but information coming from ancient Africa, I want to get out of that word Africa, because we're talking about now, we have to get into the concept of the whole globe being our home. You know, they have a pyramid second to the Great Pyramid in Egypt, right in China. But they won't show it to people, and they got that area blocked off that the rest of the world can't see, because the Chinese have no record of building pyramids. So therefore, if there's the second biggest pyramid in the world, other than second to the Great Pyramid in Hemmitt, and they got it roped off, or they got it section off but you can't see and won't allow you to see, it's because it gives up the real origin of their civilization. Point blank. You see, point blank. They're talking about even things like 50 pyramids reported somewhere in Iraq. Some stuff underground. All types of stuff. So we talk about history that is being uncovered, but this thing here is vast, so vast until if we took the next 10 years, you come back 10 years later, the history of the earth will resemble something totally different than what we think now with all the knowledge we have. You see, all the knowledge we have. But in this particular book here, starting on page 141, there's a section in this particular book. I'm going to try to find this section. On page 144, where he quotes this. Let's see if I can find the right part. And he talks about the black man. And I talked about this before, I want to get the right one. This is the only thing that I didn't read over today. I just knew it was in the book. But I had the book for a couple of years and all. But let's see what page this thing is on. He talks about, in so many words, he's trying to allude to this fear that everybody has with the devil. Gerald Massey had figured it out. He had figured it out, and it goes on to say, well, I can paraphrase it until I can actually find one. He says that the black man was Negroid. Here it is. The black man without was Negroid within. And the natural phenomenon was the original devil put out the light by swallowing it increasingly as a subtle enemy or obstructor. So in so many words, a doubler of general adversary of man. So let's read that again. The black man without, black on the outside, was Negroid within, as his reflection remains the mirror of mythology. The darkness then was the natural phenomenon, was the original devil that put out the light by swallowing it increasingly as a subtle enemy or obstructor or doubler and general adversary of man. So in so many words, what he's talking about here is he's talking about the first part of the sentence, he's talking about something being Negroid within as well as out. He's talking about melanin. Then he goes on to say, well, they're talking about something that is metaphysical, biological, chemical, or whatever, that later on is written in the mythology and then misunderstood as being something evil, as the adversary. So we're talking about, you have Christ, and then you have the shadow. Christ is shadow, and the shadow is always the Antichrist. So that these are concepts like the yin and the yang, the light and the dark. And these are concepts that later on the races come in that doesn't understand the general mythology of the general science and the mythology, and they mistake the stuff for evil. You get it? So here he's making he's referencing something that originally was taught that Negroid without and Negroid within. He's talking about melanin. As we go on, we'll go into more and more of this as we go on about just exactly what this is talking about. We're going to go deeper and deeper into this stuff and try to sift through this. So this is and basically now this stuff, it goes like this. If we can go backwards, we'll start with religion. That would be moralistic and all the stuff that you learn. Then you would go into mythology, which would be with the origin of where these stories come come from, and then behind the mythology, they'll start breaking these stories down into concepts of psychology, chemistry, astronomy, astrology, physiologically, and they'll break all that down. So if we go forward, you'll be astronomy, astrology, physiology, biology, chemistry, aspects of high levels of spirituality, and then mythology that will explain all that. It'll take all that advanced science and break it down into mythology to explain to the average person. And then later you would have religion, which would be based off of mythology, but become more political. Don't do this, don't do that, based on what person wants you to behave a certain way so he can benefit from the civilization. Either by benefiting from some political thing to rule over you or some type of pathology. They want to rule over a woman, so therefore she becomes the object of evil in every damn thing. You see what I'm saying? Or they want to rule over another race, then they become the object of evil. Or they want to rule over another competing spiritual system, so that other system becomes the object of evil. You see what I'm saying? So the Typhonians, which is the pre-dynastic Egyptians, they become the devil to the dynastic Egyptians. The Hebrews, which is a later form of Egyptian, the Egyptians become the devil to the Hebrews. The Christians, which is the later spin-off of a cult coming out of Hebrewism, the Hebrews become the devil to the doggone Christians. And then so on, the Christians become the devil to the Islam. And this thing goes on and on and on, and it gets out of hand and stuff like that now. You see, and we're always still talking about he is a family life, because we know that the architect of all of these things are still black. You know, architect of all of this is still black. You see what I'm saying? So, and the elements are in all of those particular things. So right now, before we go into that, can you give me a glass of water? Whatever. Anybody have any questions before we go into this thing of anything that's, you know, doesn't really matter. Any questions, period? Yeah.
Okay, one thing I know, you know, it's a business I'm in and it deals with melanin. And it's one thing I know, nobody want to talk about it. They want you to be quiet. They really don't want you to deal with it. And then you just know that there's something that we don't know.
It's what, melanin?
Yes. They really don't.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. It is interesting because it's, I even noticed even in the metaphysical thing, I went through almost, for the last 14 years, I went through just about every book in every metaphysical bookstore in the East Coast and half the West. And you rarely see the word melanin.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You rarely see the word melanin. You know, so we do know that has that light cut off. That's cool. Okay, all right, I just wanted to know. Okay, cool. So we do know that's always a mystery. And the reason why that is because most of the stuff is still have to be accommodated with white. And with white people, if you start getting into stuff as the melanin and different things like that, you know, then you have to address the fact. Whereas, and which I'm going to show in some of these books, where they actually say, the majority of them say that that their pineal glands and the pineal activity doesn't last past puberty. So when you start talking about pineal gland and melanin and stuff, you got to address the fact that why theirs doesn't work past puberty. And so therefore, they would rather delete this. And even one of the top scholars in the field, researchers, a guy by the name of Kenneth Grant out of England, and he even mentions that the pineal gland, when I find the actual piece, the pineal gland is dormant after puberty or dormant after childhood. So they would rather say it's dormant in everybody after childhood than to say it's dormant in them. And like me and T was talking about, basically the reason why we got a lot of problems with a lot of things is as far as not getting to the truth. It comes back to the European has to put blockage, he has to put constrictions on everything when it comes to history because he's only a laid up part of it. So therefore the history can only be 6,000 years. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, and also too, they would rather think that different pockets of everything you have is developed out of different parts of the world. Other than we can find that majority of the stuff that we have called knowledge, they had it all in one main library in the Nile Valley. Like, take for instance, my sister-in-law, I got a sister-in-law, I met her when she was in college in the early 90s. She later on married my brother, and she started, and she and another sister named Aviva did a goddess lecture down in Atlanta when she finally came out and started doing what she was doing. The other sister was trying to do the goddess lecture for about a year, so she teamed up with my sister-in-law and they did this goddess lecture. And to show you how things spiritual go, when she went and did the research, she introduced a whole nother research and had my mouth open, me and the sister named Kimberly, who was like one of the goddess experts that was at the conference, had my mouth open where she introduced a whole nother research or information coming out of Hemmitt off the temple walls on two Marys that predates the Christian Mary, and this mythology of a creation story, how the world was, the universe was created by two sisters that got in a war with each other. And one wanted to keep the creation in the hemisphere, or in the stratosphere, or in the great beyond, within the context of the nothingness of the universe, and the other one wanted to expand the creation. And apparently the one who wanted to expand the creation won out. And there was two sisters called M-E-R-I. You see? And she found this in Budge's hieroglyphic dictionaries. So, looking and saying that there's nothing that didn't come up out of Africa, didn't come out of the Nile Valley, didn't come out of black people. You see what I'm saying? Well, we got that Mary. You see, the same mother of Jesus. Two Marys that was in one of the creation stories. You see, that was in one of the creation stories. You know, we know there's several creation stories, which is, here's another one to add, which there's a book, Marie-Louise von Franc's book, Creation Myths. So there's another creation story that they have to add. But this is very pertinent information. So it's just ongoing when it comes to doing the research on this stuff. Any more questions? Any more? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Right now I'm reading the Stargate Conspiracy.
Yeah, good book.
And they're talking about the Hall of Records or the Pyramid of Records that they may be looking for underneath the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And what's your...
well, my take on it is
that is something very important that's to be found.
Well, my point is that this thing first showed up with Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce, the great psychic, was the first person to mention this stuff about a great hall of records that was under the Sphinx, and it would be opened up. And he was looking at it, but I don't think that he could understand what it was literally. Just like he said that in the last days there will be an avatar that will come called John Pineal. And John Pineal would bring the world to a new level of consciousness. So he's reading stuff, but he's not trained in the occult to understand that John, which is the Christian Elijah, and the Hebrew Elijah is the Egyptian Tahuti. You see what I'm saying? So John Pineal, the wisdom of Tahuti is the wisdom of alchemy. And so John Pineal means alchemical pineal or melanin pineal, because alchemy is the study of melanin. So he said Pineal, John Pineal will come, and John Pineal is one who comes before Christ. Well, he said John, which is John who comes before Christ. Pineal is the Christ. John, Tahuti, or Anubis, Horus. Horus is called the Great Face, which is the pineal gland.